Hi everyone, this week on Freedom Advocacy we'll be looking at what it will take to save South Africa and check out how some of the political elite are South Africa's biggest race hustlers. Stay tuned, we are about to have a great show. Welcome to Freedom Fanatics, a production of the Freedom Advocacy Network. This show is every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook, and you can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Each week we discuss the latest fan content with our authors and our creators right here. My name is Solon, and today my guests are Alex, who is our digital content coordinator here at FAN, and also a first-time guest, Dumo Denga. He is the host of the Man Patriot podcast. Thank you guys for being on the show today. First up, we'll have a quick look into our latest explainer video, which FAN releases every Monday. And this week's explainer video is titled "This is How We Save South Africa." Let's have a quick watch.
South Africa doesn't have an easy past. Colonialism, tribal conflict, apartheid, racist ideas and policies that kill freedom. Our present isn't much better. Crime, unemployment, failing services, fading hope. Many are wondering if there's any hope of saving South Africa. Will South Africans of different races ever get along? Yes, but only if you reject politicians who use race to divide us and influencers and journalists who know that racism sells. In fact, most South Africans are not racist. The data is clear. South Africans know they must work together for our country to succeed. Will corruption ever stop killing our children's futures? Yes, but only if you stand up and help change the laws that have allowed the powerful to look after themselves, leaving millions stuck in poverty created by decades of bad policies. Will crime stop destroying lives? Yes, but only if you step up to help rebuild a criminal justice system that really serves justice and freedom. Only if we take action and motivate others to join us can we beat the evils of lawlessness, poverty, and a broken system that fuel crime. Will people find jobs? Yes, but only if you say no to policies that kill jobs and fight for policies that give people the freedom to work, use their skills, and earn an income. Things are tough, but they don't have to be. We can save South Africa if we care enough to get involved. If we empower individuals to become problem solvers in their own lives and communities, build relationships of trust between citizens to confront problems together, and connect freedom-loving people to fight for an accountable, honest, and effective government. To stay on the sidelines and think that it's someone else's problem, that's how we lose. Getting off the sidelines can save South Africa.
Yeah, so we just watched our latest explainer video. Brilliant visuals by our team, Alex, and the brilliant voiceover from Dumo. And yeah, I think we're gonna get straight into it. So Dumo, central point of our explainer video is the fact that for us to save South Africa and solve problems which our explainer video mentioned, such as corruption, crime, and unemployment, it will require South Africans to actually become active participants in our democratic processes like voting as a means to keep our leaders accountable.
Definitely. I agree with that. I think in the last election, I think the 2019 elections, there was quite a significant amount of people who didn't vote, but they could have. And if they did vote, they would have actually made a significant impact during that election. I think there is some growing apathy among South Africans. However, they need to understand that together, collectively, they can actually make a difference if they actually take part in their communities and actually also take part in the democratic process as well.
Yeah. And Alex, what are your final thoughts on that?
I think we've got a massive challenge as we've discussed before of, how do we get people excited about democracy? How do we get people to vote? But I think the essence of the explainer is in saying that, you've got the power as an individual to change your circumstances. It doesn't have to be grand, piece by piece, you can shape your own society. And I mean, if you think that, just as an example, the amount of private policing sort of outnumbers the South African police force by I think 3-1. And that's people, relying on themselves, organizing themselves to protect themselves. And I think that's a small example of how you can empower yourself and your community to, look after your future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for your insight on our most latest explainer video. To our viewers, don't forget to catch our explainer videos every Monday, and it can be found on all our social media platforms. It can be found on our Facebook page, Freedom Advocacy Network. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok at Badger of Liberty. And now we'll be looking at our article for this week, which is by Tariq Khan. And it's titled 9 Disturbing Quotes by Race Hustlers in South Africa. So, race hustlers, as defined by this article, are essentially divisive figures who try to divide South Africa. Some of these figures include Malema, who says things like, "We are not calling for the slaughtering of white people, at least for now." We even have an all-time favorite, Cyril Ramaphosa, claiming that if you don't vote, the Boers will come back to control us. And these statements are absolutely ridiculous. And in the list, there's included people like Steve Hofmeyer, even our former president, disgraceful former president, I should know, Jacob Zuma, all who have been fueling divisive rhetoric and racial rhetoric that you can actually go and find in this article on our website, which is at Freedom Advocacy Network. So, Alex, we see over and over that polling data by the Institute of Race Relations constantly shows us that creating jobs, better education, and fighting corruption are the main priorities of ordinary South Africans. Yet we see divisive comments, racial comments like this from
No, exactly. And I think we flagged a quote card the other day of politicians using, I think it was Thomas Sowell who said, race is kept alive by politicians and race hustlers. But I think in South Africa we've got a much deeper problem of race nationalism as opposed to just racism in itself. And if you look at the ANC's sort of aiming for a socialist utopia via the National Democratic Revolution, race essentialism and nationalism is a key ingredient to their whole hustle. It's not even their side hustle. And division is more useful than unity, unfortunately, from those political elites.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dumo, just to catch up from where Alex has left off, do you actually think that these divisive tactics are actually an indication that these race hustlers and politicians fear what could happen if South Africans once again unite the way we did in the first democratic elections in 1994?
Right. I think it is a sign that they do fear South Africans uniting and seeing past the rhetoric. But they use these tactics because what they want to achieve is some sort of faction among the population that can kind of keep the mess around, if you know what I mean. So I think what we need to, just given what you've stated now, I think the main thing is that race hustlers, they've been using this for a long time. It has been effective, unfortunately, but I do think that there's a lot of South Africans who are starting to see right through it, especially given the lockdowns and what has happened during the lockdowns and so forth. So yes, they do fear what will happen if South Africans come together. And it's also a good thing that South Africans are actually starting to see past it as well.
Yeah, Alex, also I'd just like to come to you for just the last point. Do you genuinely believe that the fact that things are actually getting worse in South Africa, like our unemployment rates are skyrocketing, all of these things are getting more intense. Thus, do you actually think that they will start ramping up this racial tactics the more things get worse because they need a better deflection from the real state of the nation?
I think they will, but I think South Africans will see through it. We can't we can't have another incident with, how many pharmacies does the EFF want to loot? And old age homes and all sorts of things. People aren't, for example, people aren't not voting because the system is systemically racist. People aren't voting because they're disgruntled with service delivery. And I think also just in a more sort of immediate sense, if we look at Cyril Ramaphosa's testimony at the Zondo Commission, people were not buying his lies, to put it kindly. And I think that's the thing. People, as we point out in the explainer, unemployment, crime, corruption, those are the things that matter to people. And people want solved. And I think unfortunately what we might see is people retreating into enclaves of race in a way as a way of coping with stuff. And I think that's something we've got to maybe look out for. But as the explainer shows, people largely know that different races need each other. And I think South Africans will be a shining light where politicians have put out the torch, as it were.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Dumo, Alex, thank you guys for being on the show this week. And we've reached the end of this episode. And don't forget to catch us every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can also check us out on YouTube and IGTV. To join FAN, you can support our fight for freedom and sign up at freedomadvocacy.net, because trust me, we need all the help we can get, because your freedom is always worth fighting for. Yeah.